My game has a huge problem. You see, I'm making a roguelike marble racing simulator called Balltopia, which can be summarized very succinctly. Gamble on balls, win lots of money. It does go deeper than that, though. Throughout a run, you can collect various cards which will affect your gameplay in some way. For example, you might get a card that earns money every time you bounce, or one that temporarily increases gravity, or one that causes an explosion that launches enemy balls away. The cards can synergize as well. For example, if you grab Gelato, which awards $100 at the start of a round, but decreases in value by $5 each round, and Dividends, which adds all money earned during a round to your wager, you can wager nothing and still end up winning $200. A very powerful early game combo. You can stack multipliers to get some absurd scores as well. For example, let's run through the cards in this winning run. Consolation Prize awards cash for finishing in any place, instead of just the top 5. Binary switches between a 0.75 times and 1.5 times multiplier every time you delete a card from your hand. Speedrunner doubles your winnings if you finish the round in less than 15 seconds. Public Transit gains 0.5 times mult every time you finish in the top 3, but it resets if you finish 4th or lower. In this run, it was leveled to 3x. All In allows you to wager twice as much cash as you have. Cave Diver counts getting stuck as finishing the round. And finally, Heavy Handed temporarily increases gravity, which helps to seal the deal. So, assuming we finish the round in under 15 seconds, with our wager of $16 billion, times 1.5, times 2, times 3, that'll be good for a score of just about 339 billion points. But here's where the problem comes in. Let's let the run play out. Yeah, that sucks. For the ridiculous amount of money you're making, it doesn't feel remotely impactful or exciting. You just get a cash register sound effect, some floating text, and that's it. The game's over. And while I do think Balltopia is a lot of fun in its current state already, it doesn't feel nearly as juicy, impressive, or over the top as I was initially hoping. So, how do we fix it? For this, I'm going to turn to one of the main sources of inspiration for this game. Unsurprisingly, it's Balatro. In Balatro, you play poker hands to score points, and can select from a huge amount of unique jokers, many of which affect your scoring in some way. But one of the main ways Balatro is leaps and bounds ahead of Balltopia is just how satisfying everything feels. For example, let's play this hand and watch the animations do their thing. Night and day, right? So, how do we achieve something similar in Balltopia? Well, the first thing I had to do, and the part I was dreading, was rewrite my entire scoring system. Now, instead of multiplying everything in one function and spitting out the grand total, the script loops over each card in your hand in order and applies their effects one at a time. Next, I created a giant label with a BB code wave effect to display your winnings as they're calculated. Every time your score changes, the text is updated, and a function is called which tweens the scale of the label to make the text pop. This was already a huge improvement, but it was still missing something. So finally, I created a mult node, which is just a label with a few tweens on it. Every time a card affects your score, this mult node is instantiated with the appropriate text, like x2 or plus 500, it plays a brief animation, and then it is freed. So with all that in place, let's whip up a hand with some interesting scoring and watch it play out. Now that's what I was going for. It's crazy how a few relatively simple changes can completely change the feel of a game. And while it's nowhere near perfect yet, I feel a lot more hopeful that Balltopia can now become the super addictive, super fun roguelike experience I had originally envisioned. And beyond the visual improvements, the new scoring system adds another layer of depth to the gameplay. For example, there's a card called the Podium, which awards $500 extra to your winnings if you finish in the top 3. If you have it at the end of your hand, it'll simply add a flat $500 to whatever your winnings are. But if you put it at the front, that $500 will be added and then multiplied by every subsequent card. Ultimately, the game's really starting to feel like a pretty solid experience, and I can't wait to see how the final product shapes up. I feel like it's also important to mention that almost all of these changes were implemented on a day that I'd started out feeling exhausted and discouraged. In fact, there was more than one brief moment where I wondered if maybe I should just scrap this project and try something else. But sometimes, inspiration is right around the corner if you push for it. The main thing is to keep trying. Eventually, things should fall into place. If Balltopia seems interesting to you, feel free to wishlist it on Steam. I'll be beginning a public playtest very soon, so feel free to join my Discord as well for more information if you'd like to participate. In the meantime, I'll get back to work on this game, and here's hoping that my second foray into game development ends up being even more epic than the first. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next. Before I go, a huge apology to the Patreon members who have supported me this year, and I've completely forgotten to shout out in most of my videos. You know, like an idiot. So please again accept my sincere apologies, and I'll see you guys later.